It's time to look at the papers. Now, let's see what the headlines are. And I have before me here a plethora of some of the papers across Nigeria. I have with me in the studio to discuss this, Dario Dufookon, a journalist with me here in the studio. Dario, good morning. Nice to see you and compliments of the season. Very good. And I also have Razak Olukoba, a social commentator, with us here in the studio. Razak, good morning.
Good morning.
Nice to see you. Great. Let's start from the Nation newspaper. That's where we start right now. Varsity workers kick as ASUU suspends strike. NASU, SANU, NAT protest 40 billion naira earned allowances sharing formula. They have issues with that, okay? We just finished speaking with the Lagos State Unilag chapter president of ASUU. From there, let's go to Daily Trust. ASUU wasted 58 weeks on strike under Buhari. Conditionally suspend later strike, and lecturers don't deserve 9-month pay. Ex-VC is saying this, and give varsities autonomy. Some dons are, making these suggestions. All right, we'll talk about all of these on the show today. Now, going there, now we'll go to Nigerian News Direct. News Direct says ASUU conditionally suspends 9-month-old strike. VC lauds ASUU and federal government. Okay, that's what's on the News Direct. From there, the Punch newspaper is next, and it says ASUU may resume strike in February. Varsity unions war over 40 billion naira. All right, federal government promises 30 billion naira for varsities revitalization before January, says ASUU. Lecturers don't have monopoly of strike. We will ground universities. Other unions are saying this. Prevent future strikes, honor agreements. Parents Association pleads with the federal government. Okay, these are all dimensions from this. That's the Punch. Now, moving now to the Daily Sun. Daily Sun says ASUU suspends strike. SANU, NAT spoil for war. NANS clamors for student involvement in future negotiations. Okay, that's the Daily Sun. From there, let's go to the Guardian newspaper. Guardian says investors skeptical of banks' growth. Okay, this is taking us somewhere else. Profits shrink in third quarter. Shares selling on discount in stock market. And shareholders task government on business environment. That's the Guardian. From there, let's go to the Vanguard newspaper. Vanguard says federal government tracking new type of coronavirus in Nigeria. Right, says Nigerians will get COVID vaccine free. Strain traced to South Africa. Again, FCT shuts bars, clubs, others, limits wedding guests to 50. Kwara imposes partial lockdown on councils crossover service. Ekiti imposes new restriction, bans nightclubs, vigils. Governor Biodun suspends carnivals, crossover gatherings. All right, these are all fallouts as to what various state governments are doing. All right. Now we have Daily Independent. It says stakeholders hail ASUU, task federal government on agreed conditions. We may resume action if federal government reneges. Professor Ogunyemi is saying this. That's the Daily Independent. All right. Nigerian Tribune is saying that 170 million Nigerians living in dirty environment. A study is revealing this. All right, that draws our attention to the challenges of the environment. Blueprint newspaper says as ASUU calls off strike, fresh crisis brews. SANU, NAT reject deal. Okay, I wonder if they have called it off or they're suspending it. But they say in fact, it's a conditional suspension of the strike. Okay, let's dig into these issues now. Most of the papers this morning is talking about the ASUU strike that's suspended. But I wonder what you make. Razak, let me start with you here, because you have been involved in union activities, and then you know how these things work, especially when you talk about negotiations and all of that. ASUU was home for 9 months. That's a whole session, as far as we're concerned, gone. Yet, resumption or the suspension of the strike, what they have on their hands is still promises from governments. The only thing they can boast of right now is the 40 billion naira government has promised to give to them. Talk to us about it.
Well, it's important for Nigerians to come in between ASUU and federal government because the fate of our children is involved. Because, like I have said, we are familiar with the plight of ASUU. ASUU is saying that it is better not to graduate students. than to graduate half-baked students.
Which makes logical sense.
And to explain that further, it means that there are education they are also supposed to acquire. If those allowances are not paid, they can't acquire it. For instance, the textbook I've been reading in the last 20 years is still there, Otariba, the largest producer of cocoa, largest producer of that. It's still what they read in secondary school up to today. And that's what ASUU is saying, that the journals, the seminars that they are going to, they need to update knowledge at a center where knowledges are shared so that they can teach their children appropriate education. If you do half energy to students, in 2012, the best student in Nigeria, I think, was from Port Harcourt also, University of Port Harcourt, and was asked to perform an elementary experiment. They said there are 2 lecturers that taught them that aspect in the whole of Nigeria, and one of them has resided in Nigeria and gone to other universities. So, and that's the point they were. So the points they were making. So also about lawyers. That is that you ask a student of law these days that you will be asking. You say you graduated when? Is it the same? So, and you know that the University of Ibadan one time got to a point that other foreign universities advise you that if you are coming to UK or European universities for studies, we recommend UI. If there's no vacancy, you can then come up, because the quality of education as at that time is equal and at par to what they are teaching. All African countries come to UI that time. So, but today, I don't think there's a Nigerian university that is one of the first 1,000. So, and those are a point that ASUU were making. Then, on the side of the federal government too, we have to sympathize with the federal government too. That's why I say Nigeria must come in between them. We have to sympathize with the federal government too. We run a system of government where priority is not given to education. It is not from this government. It is inherited from the past government. So,
but how do we sympathize? But how do we sympathize with government in that context?
In the context of funding, in the context of lack of funding, I'm talking about the economic situation we find ourselves now.
Yeah, but isn't that just the issues of priority?
That is why Nigerians must come in as a aid to the government, because all over the world, it might not be your children that will benefit from the aid you are giving. It might be the children of somebody that will come around your organization tomorrow. That's why Nigerians must create an endowment fund for to support federal government and ASUU and university lecturers to be able to give our children good education all over the world. There are endowment fund that federal government put in place. People make contributions that the country must be educated. People forget that if you train your children abroad, it's a mistake, because the children of people you don't train in Nigeria that give rickety education, they will run the companies you think your children is coming to run. They will be the accountant, they will be the doctor, they will be the engineer that will employ to come around the organization.
All have base.
So Nigerians is what I'm going to call it, because of our children.
Yes.
My child has children have been home for 9 months now. I don't want him to go back to school.
Yeah. Let's bring Dari in here. Dari, the point there is, from the comments we are hearing from some people, they say all ASUU is looking for, it's all about their welfare and the money. What do you make of this? But from what Razak is saying, they have a cause that they're fighting for, which is the system.
He just explained or reiterated what we had at the beginning of the strike. He just repeated what we were made to believe while the strike was going on. But between us here, or among us here, sincerely, do we still believe in this mantra? I have reasons to doubt that that was actually the major interest. Because every other issue, apart from the 40 billion naira that will be shared by the lecturers, that will go into their private pockets, every other issue are still on promissory notes. Government just promised we will fund education better. Promise. We will give money for the expansion of facilities. Promise. We will create a endowment fund to support the university system to be independent. Promise. We will give universities autonomy. Promise. But we will take money.
We will test the pass which they projected.
Promise. But take money for your allowances. That has been done. So if you, how do you explain to anybody that the major interest was not the money? I think going up, and even if you look at the discussions afterwards, it remains centered on the money. Nobody is talking about those promises. Nobody is insisting that government said before January. ASUU has called off the strike. January is 7 days or so away. Government is yet to fulfill that part of the bargain. But the fact that we now have the assignment of sharing money, everybody has gone to the drawing board. The drawing board to do what? To share money. I think for a strike that lasted 9 months, I think the longest ever, the dividends should be more than what we have now. If all we got out of that strike is personal allowances for the lecturers, too bad, too bad. I am personally dissatisfied with the way, this is not a ever happy ending at all. If you take a look at other sectors, now I am afraid that we are yet to see the end of strike. It is not ASUU that will go on strike now. SANU, NAT. They are already telling you, and you see I see the university unions engaging in arm-twisting methods. They waited all the while. They were not on strike. ASUU was struggling with the government. I agree with the president of, the chairman of UNILAG, who said, don't wait on the wings to benefit from a struggle you did not participate in. I agree with him. But what the other unions will do now, and we should be prepared for it, as they will ground the universities to show you that it is not only ASUU who has the monopoly of strikes. And where will it all lead up? Then in addition, the 2 elephants or 3 elephants or even 4 are about to fight. The grass, the students, continue to be on the receiving end. Not just by missing lectures alone. Now ASUU called off their strike or suspended or whatever. Landlords in the various hostels, and this is something we should discuss, Mike, are insisting that students, if you are coming, I read it on social media, I've read it in the papers, if you are coming to resume, you are coming with 2 years rent. The one you didn't stay, but your properties were in our rooms, and the fresh one you want to start. I tell you, even private hostels in LASU, Lagos State University, private hostels, issued, I saw the memo sent to parents that we will collect money for the 9 months not while the students were not in session. And nobody is bothered about that. I want to challenge the National Association of Nigerian Students. I was once an acting president of NANS after the death of Moses Ofiekede. These are the type of struggles that should concern Nigerian students, not who should be president and who should not be governor.
All right.
These are I want to challenge NANS at the national level and the JCCs, Joint Campus Committees of Nigerian students in each state, that this is a struggle for you to wage. Ensure that students and their parents do not end up on the receiving end of a struggle they benefited not a dime from, of a struggle to which they lost 9 months, because that's a session. One session, somebody who is supposed to graduate this year will have to wait towards the ending of 2021, and like that. So if they lost, they made that sacrifice already. Their parents or they themselves shouldn't be made to pay for a time. Somebody who said we should also pity the landlords. Then the landlords should reach out to government to give them palliatives. It shouldn't be the parents who lost. It shouldn't be the students who lost.
All right. Razak, I wonder how we balance this. Because the point there is that if the landlords are saying that, well, it is my property and it is meant to make profit for me, so if the students live there or don't live there, so long as that period of time it was in their name, they should pay. And on the other hand of the students, where they are home not because of their own doing, like Daria has said, it was from strike and the conditions that made them to leave. And not live in the house for the period of time. How do we reconcile this?
Well, crisis is an umbilical cord. It keeps connecting each other.
Okay.
What we can do to landlords is to appeal. Business, they are running a business.
Okay.
You go to a filling station, you buy your fuel. And we should not say because someone built a house, should not make his money. Landlord has undergone a lot of trauma in the hand of tenants. There are tenants in Lagos particularly that have traumatized landlord that you now wonder what law protects the landlord. Because a lot of law protects the tenant, but little law protects the landlord. Is this just because the assumption that you are rich, that's how you are building a house? But it's a business. So what we can do...
The landlord is a lord. You know,
yes,
it's called a lord.
No, in court, it's not a lord. You can live in someone's house. You can live in someone's house for 3 years with court injunctions. Now, what we can do is to appeal to landlord for concession. If they can't concede, business is business. We cannot, but because the landlord is also aware of the trauma of the student, they can concede 6 months. They can so we cannot enforce that type of law because as people that is in between, because the table will turn on sometime again too. On school, you don't go to school, you don't pay school fees. But if you pay school fees and there's a COVID and you lock down, will the student collect their fee back? They won't collect their fee back. The fee that they did not use when they got promoted, they did online this thing for them. So the landlord will push argument to that we kept your properties in time and you did not allow us to rent the properties out. Because if you had moved your properties out and rented it out within those 9 months, there will be issues. So, but the focus of the matter is that, you see, when you have this kind of issue like this, it brings us back to how we got to where we are today. And how we got to where we are today is because the education of this country is in jeopardy. And all of us must come together and realize that if we don't give sound education to our children, our nation is not going anywhere. It's like the prosperity of all the nations in the world is as a result of the quality of education they offer their children. If you don't give your children qualitative education, don't expect a better future. Look at the economy, the leading economies in the world today. It's as a result of education they get to us. So the earlier we realize that, the better. If we don't do that, and that's why the law should be made that every person in the education must not send their children to private school. All the people, you have the people in government, they send their children to private university, and they are in government.
I wonder how
you see Minister of Education. You send your children abroad.
I wonder how
you see people who have university in Nigeria.
Yes, but
their children is schooling abroad.
Yeah, but Razak,
that is the reason. That is the reason why.
I wonder how that law is going to infringe on the rights
of
the
freedom enjoyed by the individual under the law. That's something that
fundamental human rights.
Fundamental, difficult to
enshrine. If you design education for me, education policy for my own children. And you are taking your own children abroad.
But are we going to make it?
If you are a doctor,
maybe like you said,
if you are the minister of health,
are we also going to make
if you are the minister of health, and you are taking medical care abroad,
is it going to be compulsory for citizens to take
on element that we can treat in Nigeria?
Yes.
On courses we can offer in Nigeria. Not special education.
Anyway,
like medical, like law,
Razak,
like mathematics.
Yes,
Razak, that can teach in Nigeria.
Yes, Razak, that issue is a little complicated.
Not private individual. Not me, not him.
That issue.
But I give you budget of Nigeria. I pay my tax to you.
All right, okay,
the fact that your government does not take away your rights.
As education,
that issue,
as education policy maker.
Gentlemen.
Policy for you.
Gentlemen.
Are we also going to make it compulsory for every Nigerian that your child must school here? If we are not going to make it compulsory, it will be discriminatory. No,
if you build university, we cannot.
Gentlemen,
I am telling your children abroad.
It is morally wrong.
That's what I'm saying.
Gentlemen, but the idea of saying
it is morally wrong.
What if I decide to
it is morally wrong?
Gentlemen,
go to the office now.
We will appeal. All right, gentlemen.
The moment my child schools abroad, I am not entitled to take.
Once you become an education policy maker, you get your children back to public school.
All right.
That's why we're not getting it.
It's fine. The point is,
all right, problems are solving all over the world in this manner.
All right, you're watching TVC Breakfast. You're watching TVC Breakfast. And as it is right now, we're going through the papers and seeing what the headlines are this morning. And from what my guests are talking about is a fallout of the suspension of the strike by ASUU. And they've been having this loggerheads with the federal government for the past 9 months. But we're about rounding off now one way or the other. But Razak was making a very strong point. However, a lot of Nigerians will see from a different perspective. But Dari, as we round off right now, What strategy can government put in place right now as we round off to ensure that, because they're talking about the issue of 2009 agreement that was revisited in 2013, revisited in 2017, revisited in 2019, and in 2020. What can government do differently?
I think the entire agreement of 2009 should be scrutinized.
All right. I am told we have to leave it here. So this discussion will continue. I'm sorry that we had to even ask the question in the first place, but we'll look for more time to talk about this. Yeah. This is a new issue that has come up. In fact, the whole of the week we're going to talk about it one way or the other. Thank you very much, Dario Dufour, for coming. Razak Olokoba, thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much. Thank you. Right.